Good evening, participants. Thank you for joining on today's webinar of Flex Connect series uh, for the plastic waste management rules and learning how the plastic industry is strategizing to align for transformation. I request ED sir to please welcome the audience and the speakers. And the attendees, if they have any questions, they can put it in the chat box and the speakers would address it towards the end of the webinar. Thank you so much. Over to you, ED sir.
Thank you, Pranal. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on plastic waste management rules. In the past few months, the Government of India had invited opinions from our industry regarding the draft plastic waste management rules with a clear purpose, not only to effectively tackle India's waste problem, but also establish closer cooperation with industry as a key stakeholders in ensuring its implementation. As George Bernard Shaw said, the progress is impossible without change, and those who cannot change their minds cannot change anything. These quotes aptly describe today's topic, aligning for transformation. An important component of the amended plastic waste management rules is the EPR, a hot topic of debate in our industry and cause for apprehension amongst many industry members. However, to begin with, we need to foremost understand the global warming is a serious threat to our world. As you know, it is important being felt every day in a way that are big or small. The only way to tackle the issue by making small changes is gone now, and today we need concrete, bold, and disruptive changes, measures. The world belongs to our future generation, and we must safeguard it for them. The draft EPR framework under plastic waste management rules proposes to give manufacturers 5 years to achieve waste management target, starting starting with 30% and moving up to 90% in the 5th year. As an industry, we must explore strategic partnership, develop a blueprint for solving environmental challenges on a national scale. That is the key to ensure long-term sustainability of plastics processing industry. It is my pleasure to introduce two amazing speakers today. Mr. Bharat Mehta, Vice President, Paid Marketing, Reliance Industries, is here to help us understand the implication of EPR and how adopting a pragmatic approach to its compliance can help business achieve legislative, environmental, and economic goals. Mr. Mehta currently heads Sustainability Business Development Advocacy for Paid Business at RIL and has been previously the head of domestic sales for Paid Business. He is also an active member and advisor to Paid Packaging Association for Clean Environment. I am pleased to introduce Ms. Pratibha Devat, Chief Marketing and Sustainability Officer at Lecro Plasticycle, an Indian waste collector, recycler, and product manufacturers that is the pioneer in developing post-consumer recycled products to achieve circular economy for plastics in India. She will be talking about closing the loop on post-consumer waste through innovative and strategic partnership with the processing industry to manage waste. Mrs. Devat is an active sustainability advocate, and she comes with an extensive experience in the food and beverage agriculture companies that were on a mission to make agriculture better for people and for the planet by building a sustainable livelihood for farmers and communities. On behalf of the Plastic Export Promotion Council and all at present, I would like to thank both speakers for taking the time out to share their knowledge and hope that the sessions will help achieve our sustainability goals. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, sir, for this brief welcome and the introduction to the speakers for the today. I now request Ms. Bharti Devat to to address the audience. Sorry, Ms. Pratibha Devat.
Hi, thank you very much. I was wondering who same surname as me, who was supposed to talk. Right. So I'm just going to start maybe by sharing my screen very quickly. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Perfect. Right. So I am gonna first, before I get on to strategic partnerships, I'm probably gonna start a little bit by introducing exactly what it is that Lucro does and how we're closing the loop on flexible plastic waste. So 80% of our focus of collection is purely on post-consumer waste. Again, this is obviously the waste that you and I are all throwing away into our waste bins. It's the waste that is completely mixed. It has different polymer types in it. It has a lot of foul odor in it because of obviously all the mixed waste and the oil which comes along with it. It is of different colors. All of these aspects play a major role in the final quality of the recycled material which comes out
मतलब
at the
एडिट
end.
वाला एक्सपीरियंस हो गया वो है अपने पास टांगने का
Okay,
होने का
moving on. So as a company, there are three sort of major goals that we have always focused on. One is to make sure that plastic always stays in the circular economy, which obviously has a lot of environmental benefits. To give you a brief sort of outlook into the kind of environmental benefit it has, about 10 tons of recycled LDPE material is a carbon sink for approximately 1 ton CO2, compared to 10 tons of virgin material. And obviously, so in the whole circularity aspect, it is very plastic plays a very important role for brands as well as for customers, where you can get your final product out cheaper to a lot of people. It has a wider reach due to the kind of packaging it is, and obviously it ends up increasing the shelf life of the products as well. um, we've always tried to ensure that we create higher value product, or we upcycle the product that we upcycle the waste that we get, the raw material waste that we get into our collection centers, which has a lot of economic benefits obviously attached to it, because there's the increased amount of value of the waste that we end up getting is passed on up and down the supply chain. Again, obviously, the environmental benefits, like I mentioned, all of this comes back into the recycling fold, is the kind of benefit that it ends up giving. A third and a very important aspect, which kind of affects every decision making that we as a company do, be it a new product launch that we want to do, or be it partnering with a new partner that we're looking at within the supply chain. Obviously, always making sure that there is environmental and social sustainability aspect attached to it. But as waste management, we are very familiar with environmental and social sustainability as an intrinsic part of what we do. But I think oftentimes we forget to give enough amount of credit or focus on the economic sustainability that should be there in waste management as well, because without economic sustainability, any activity ends up being only a CSR activity, which ends up also shortening the sort of life of any activity that you're carrying on. So that's an important aspect that we're always paying focus on. And when I say economic sustainability, I mean benefits trickling down to every key player or every stakeholder in the supply chain. So this is obviously the typical Indian recycling model that we have currently, where waste changes a lot of hands before it finally becomes a final product or a final recycled.
Hey,
A final recycled product. What ends up happening with a model like this is that because waste has changed so many hands, the final cost of the recycled material is not able to give a good competition to virgin material, and recycled material often ends up sort of losing the war compared to virgin material. The other important part is, where we're always focusing on the kind of benefit that we're able to trickle down to the waste picker. We're not able to give them enough benefits because we always end up focusing on the short-term benefits. How can we, in the short term, increase the life or make the life of the waste picker better. We're not always looking at ensuring that their daily source of income is impacted in a way that their livelihood becomes better. The third important aspect is that, because there are so many players, all of these players that are in the waste, in the waste management supply chain, the quality aspect ends up getting hampered because quality is not the most important part for every player, as it would be for a recycler or a converter. So obviously the quality ends up getting hampered, which again, in the end ends up, the brand not making a decision to buy the recycled product as well. In contrast, what we are doing is that we make sure that we work directly with a lot of waste pickers. We work directly with ULBs. We work directly with with a lot of aggregators, with a lot of brands, in order to make sure that all the waste that is coming into our collection centers can be segregated into 15 to 20 categories. Since quality is a very important aspect to us, we segregate and sort the product ourselves. We clean and wash and make the sort of recycled pellets ourselves, and we blow it to the final product ourselves as well. Again, what this does is, besides increasing the value of the product, it makes sure that the cost of the final product is kept to a point where it's able to give a very strong competition to virgin products. So the waste, this is just a little bit of the kind of, how we see the fragmented waste supply chain at the moment, and how we are trying to make sure that we're able to integrate it. While doing this, we also make sure that we are able to pay sort of special focus on each and every player in the supply chain, and we try and partner with each and every player in order to make sure that we're, again, able to keep optimal quality, able to have the kind of raw material that we require, and able to get enough raw material at every given point to be able to sort of make the recycled product, or be able to achieve the demand that we have at the moment for recycled product. So a little bit about the kind of sort of partnerships that we have. We partner directly with a lot of waste pickers. Obviously, when I say we partner with waste pickers, you are as any company, it is the best option would be to sort of partner with all the waste pickers, who are in sort of your vicinity itself. What we have ended up doing is, making sure that a lot of unstructured or unregulated trade is brought into the sort of regulated market as well, by ensuring that all our payments are made completely digitally. Besides being digital payments, I think one of the biggest problems that waste pickers have also ended up facing until today is that their payments are not given immediately. They end up doing a lot of work on credit. But we end up making sure that even before we take the stock in, the minute the stock is weighed, the payment is made to them first digitally, and that's when the product is then taken from them. We're partnering with a lot of MRF centers, obviously very important again, because in order to make sure that a lot of the product doesn't end up going to landfill. Because I think MRF centers also sometimes would not end up understanding the kind of value every product has attached to it, which is something that only a recycler or a converter might end up understanding. We're directly engaging with a lot of brands as well, in order to make sure that end of life products from their their distribution outlets or their factories is also collected, so that they also have some sort of consistency in the kind of that their waste is getting picked up and taken to one place.
Excuse me, ma'am, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Participants, we can address the question at the last, as mentioned. I request for that.
Right. I'm going to move on. The other very major sort of aspect that it's a new model that we've recently tried to engage with is, we're engaging with a lot of local community in our own facilities vicinity. So we're based out of Umargam. Our facilities are based out of Umargam. So we've engaged in a community sort of engagement program where we have a lot of people on ground. We have quite a few booths in very strategic locations in the city. And we have been going door to door to go and explain people the kind of value that waste has attached to it. I think one of the major problems why a lot of plastic waste remains uncollected to date, versus an example of, say, paper. A lot of us understand the kind of value that paper has associated with it because we've grown up with it. But we don't end up realizing that different types of plastics actually have a lot of value associated with them. So we have been going door to door and telling people, teaching them what flexible plastic waste is, what are the different types of what are the different types of flexible plastic waste that they end up getting daily. For example, milk pouches, bread pouches, something that you end up using on a daily basis. and what is the kind of value that that product actually has. A milk pouch or a bread pouch can only have anywhere between 15 to 20 rupees per kg associated with it, which is not something people end up realizing. And if you washed it and then you've given it, that ends up have a higher value as well. So due to this activity, we have in fact seen an increase in collection directly from waste generators of anywhere between 300 kgs to a ton per day. And I'm talking about a tiny town which has no more than 30,000 households, which I think if sort of try to, if it was applied to various sort of other parts of the country, I think the kind of waste that we can see coming directly from the waste generators would be humongous. The other thing that we've been doing is we have been holding seminars for waste pickers. Again, very important because they're obviously a very key player of the market, and being in our sort of at least our vicinity, we want to make sure that we're able to uplift at least their lives, and not just uplift it on a short-term basis where we're doing a tiny little CSR activity for them, but in a long-term basis where we're able to tell them that if you get us this amount of PET, this is the kind of price we can give you. If you get us this amount of flexible plastic waste, and what are the different categories or the different types of flexible plastic waste which you might not have realized, which actually end up having a lot of value because we're able to increase the value of that product. And if you get this for us, what are the kind of benefit that you can seek? And then again, obviously, I think waste pickers also end up having a sort of a key, for the lack of a better word, I would say hatred towards digital payments, or having sort of bank accounts associated with them, and they prefer cash transactions. But through this seminar, what we're also trying to do is, educate them on the various other kind of benefits that they will end up getting if, if they're able to, if they let us open a bank account for them. And, what are the sort of various Pradhan Mantri Yojanas that we have currently for life insurance, for obviously medical benefits, etc., that they can take advantage of as well. Besides that, we have partnered with our local Nagar Nigam as well, where Nagar Nigam is actually holding, and I think they end up holding this from time to time, where they give 3 rupees per 3 rupees per kg of the waste extra to the waste pickers for the same for the waste that they pick up and they get into our recycling facility. So again, very important for an activity like this for themselves to have themselves registered. So besides collection, we have also partnered with various other players in the supply chain. We have Circulate Capital that's invested in us, and besides an investing company, I think there's a lot of sort of other key benefits that we have been able to, in terms of thought leadership, that we've been able to get from them. In terms of guidance of aligning ourselves with UN SDGs, and what are the various benefits that we can achieve in each and every SDG through our work. We partnered with Dow as well, Dow Chemicals, and there's a lot of material science expertise which comes from them as well, and a lot of innovation in designing new products as well that comes from them. I think one of the parts that I also missed was ocean-bound product that I haven't touched on. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly go back to the seminar and also touch on ocean-bound product, which is a key certification that we have, and obviously a key aspect of something that we're all very conscious about, of the plastic waste that ends up going into our oceans. It's very important for us to also let waste pickers know that if they pick up waste from within a 50-kilometer radius of the ocean shores or of the rivers, they end up getting a higher value for that product, which is something that we're able to give because we're ocean-bound collection and recycling certified. Besides this, we have a lot of partnerships with other recyclers as well, because we have our own collection facilities. Obviously, the kind of material that comes in could be mixed at times. We end up getting a little bit of paper, glass, and metal as well. And it's very important to have partnerships with the right recyclers that are recycling this kind of product, so that we're not, again, disposing this product out into the open, or, sending it back into the beginning of the supply chain, and we're able to pass it on directly onto the recycler. We work very closely with brands, and when we say we work closely with brands, we don't just talk about it in terms of them being our just being the buyer. When we're working with brands, we make sure that we're partnering with them in terms of designing the product that they require. So not only have we helped quite a few brands move from sort of different polymer types into a monomaterial product, we have also ensured that a lot of focus is given on the design aspect or the printing aspect of it as well. We have our own proprietary technology of de-inking. So we make sure that minimal sort of printing areas or printing is done on minimal areas, and we end up doing a lot of we do surface printing only versus reverse printing. In order to make sure that the product can be de-inked. So we put a lot of focus on end of life recyclability of the products, besides the product being made of recycled product as well. So I think I've already touched on this, so I'm not going to go into details again on the kind of sort of material science and thought leadership partnership that we have. This is just a quick look into the kind of products that we're able to end up making or end up giving a higher value to. This is all coming from the kind of waste that you and I are throwing into our waste bins is what is making this product. This product is again recyclable, so it comes back into, a lot of it does end up coming back into our recycling facilities, but also since it's 100% recyclable, it is going into other recycling facilities as well. Just quickly on the kind of impact or the, the social and the environmental impact that we're able to achieve with this. We've made sure that about 107 bank accounts of waste pickers and other partners that are associated with us have been opened by us, because again, we want to make sure that we've regulated all the trade that we do. We end up paying waste pickers anywhere between 20 to 50% higher margins compared to what they would have gotten for the same product had they given the product somewhere else. If they'd given it to, say, an MRF, or they'd given it to a waste energy facility. About 17, I think I'm going to leave this at this. The kind of carbon savings that we're able to do compared to if the same product was virgin, again, at the moment, we are between 4,000 and 5,000 tons, and we're looking at increasing this with time. The kind of employment that we're able to generate through this, at the moment, we have about 276 unskilled to semi-skilled labor. And this is something that we're looking at increasing twofold in the next 2 years. The kind of ocean plastic waste that we're able to divert at the moment, again, is about 660 tons, which we're looking at increasing again by the end of 2 years. We are able to impact about 10 of the 17 SDGs. I'm going to very quickly touch on one thing which I think is very important based on the EPR guideline as well, which is of waste traceability. Seeing how this was such an important part, waste traceability is such an important part of not just sort of day-to-day working of waste management, also realizing that it was a very important thing that they were looking, that authorities are looking in terms of, focusing on even on a day-to-day basis. We developed our own software, which is blockchain based and which focuses on QR code tracking of the product, in which we are able to track the product right from the time it is picked up by the waste picker to the time it moves in the supply chain through the various sort of players in the supply chain to when it is finally converted into an end product. So we are essentially able to give, a flow of material chart to brands as well, in which they can see the kind of various bales that were made or the various images of the waste that have come in, the various kind of bales that have been made, the flow of material, the various kind of recycled granule batches that have come in, and then the final product that has been made from the waste, the images of which are provided to them. I think I'm going to stop it here, and yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We have the questions flowing in from the participants. Would you like to address it right now?
Happy to, or I can have a quick look at the questions and we can get started.
Sure.
next presentation.
Sounds good. So, ma'am, you can, there are a couple of questions there in the chat box. So, in the meantime, I'll just have Mr. Bharat Mehta to
Sure.
address the audience.
Yeah.
I request Mr. Bharat Mehta to please address the audience, sir.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Plex Council, for giving me the opportunity to speak at your forum. And good evening to all of you. Let me share my screen first. Hope you're all able to see the screen. Yeah, so
Yes, sir.
I have put a title as Plastic Waste to Wealth for a Swachh Bharat and a Swasth Bharat. The plastic waste management rules, the single-use plastic policy, the extended producer responsibility approach, all this work in tandem and support each other. And through the example of PET packaging industry, I will take you through my next slides. So plastics are fantastic. Broadly, there are 7 types of polymers we all know, and they all contribute to the safety to human health. They contribute to a better environment, economics, all this subject to they are well handled after the consumer disposes it. See, India became polio-free in 2014, and Do Boond Zindagi Ke, this is the title of the book by Dr. Harshvardhan, who released this book when India became polio-free. And I'm sure no one of us can imagine that this would have been possible without that squeezable plastic LDP bottle, which delivered the polio drops. Even during COVID, PET, other polymers, I'm talking of PET, which is also at the forefront in fighting COVID, whether it is a sanitizer bottle, the small bottle for the COVID warrior, the large bulk containers for the homes, and the this PP kits, they're made of PP also, as well as PET also. Polyester is also possible. The face shields, the masks. So PET and other polymers continue to play their role in fighting COVID-19. Also, this is a 2-year-old story when the market was open and Swiggy released this, that over the last 1 year, so many gulab jamun orders, halwa, faluda, and 95 biryanis per minute, 35,000 varieties of biryani. All this would not have been possible without those plastic packaging that made home delivery to so much of consumers possible. Even when the Beat Plastic Pollution was started in 2018 by United Nations, and the theme was Beat Plastic Pollution, and you could see National Geographic came out with a magazine which was suggesting that the problem of plastic is so huge, and these magazines were getting delivered in plastic, covered in plastic. So banning plastic does not solve the problem. Prevention of plastic litter by civic sense and good collection system does help. So basically, a lot of people, when they say ban plastic waste, they say ban plastics. So in a nutshell, plastics are good. The littering is bad. And if you mix up everything, dry waste, wet waste, everything, then it becomes ugly. See, it is very important that not only the industry talks, but also engages institutions to talk about how the plastic product that you're introducing is helping in the environment. So you all know PACE, it is PET Packaging Association for Clean Environment. They instituted a study with the help of two institutions. One was understanding the PET recycling landscape. This was done by National Chemical Laboratory Innovation Center, and it was a pan-India study. Their conclusion is 65 to 70% of PET gets recycled by the organized fiber industry. Then there is another 20 to 25% which is going into the unorganized sector. This report can be accessed by anyone at www.petrecycling.in. Then we did a life cycle assessment of PET bottles, and there was a lot of talk of changing PET to glass, and so we did a study. The global warming potential of glass is 300 times of PET over a period of 100 years. And all the parameters of the study, acidification, eutrophication, ozone creation, terrestrial ecotoxicity, PET scored much, much better than glass. So this was an advertisement by association that out of 21 billion bottles, 1 billion t-shirts can be created, an example of waste to wealth. Then besides environment, it is also important that how the plastic is addressing the health concerns. So there was a lot of debate on this subject in the last few years, with Drug Technical Advisory Board also getting involved. So PACE, along with CFTRI, took up a study because BPA, phthalates, heavy metals, whether they are present in PET, and the conclusion was all was below the detection limits. And of course, it is not there in the PET resin, whether they get generated in the bottle, again, they were not detected. Of course, when you store some product in this PET, whether something happens to endocrine, whether the endocrine disrupting chemicals get generated and change your hormonal balances. And this was a long study, and it is one of the kind study that is published in India by any association. And the water was stored and fed to male and female rats, and the conclusion was PET does not cause any endocrine disruption. So this was the local study of PET, but internationally, everyone approves about the safety of PET, whether it is US FDA, US Pharmacopoeia standard, WHO has a lot of products. LC likewise in India, BIS standards are there, the FSSAI. So more than 300 million tons have already been used globally, and more than 15 trillion bottles have been packed. This is a very big epidemiological evidence of the safety of PET. So if it is PET, it is safe. This ad was released by association after the Dr. Bhan committee was published by the Ministry of Health about the safety of PET. And also there is a lot of debate that one should stop having water in these PET bottles. Let me update you. When these bottles get delivered to billions of consumers, 84 parameters get tested. Some are hour, some are batch-wise, some are daily, some are weekly, some are monthly, some are yearly. About 84 parameters, and that's how it can delivered. And you cannot compare this water with water ATMs and water that is served in hotels and a lot of offices. So PET delivers water very safely. It has been doing it for the last more than 20 years in India, since the BIS standards for water keeping. So these are some awareness efforts made by the PET industry. PET industry led by Sri Manju Shri at that time, Sri Vimal Kedia ji, along with Plast India, made the world's largest T-shirt out of recycled plastic bottles. And this was displayed at the Andheri Sports Complex, and later they were made 10,000 T-shirts were made out of it and were given to Ocean Foundation and other foundations who were doing the beach cleanups. And when Maharashtra ban came in for carry bags, there was a lot of shortage, there was a lot of stress. At that time, these bags made out of recycled PET bottles were introduced, and they are long lasting. They can last in several years, and you can see the Municipal Corporation of Greater Mumbai officials who are displaying these bags. There was a lot of demand from them to give it to various retailers and shopkeepers. So these were made at that time. This is a T-shirt made from recycled PET bottles, and it is designed by the designer Anita Dongre. So all these things are possible out of the recycled PET bottles. And there's a Modi jacket. Modi jacket is the brand made by an Ahmedabad-based company, and this is being displayed. It has 55% recycled PET content. This is, there was a lot of demand that how do the consumer get aware? So it was planned to put up a lot of these plastic bottle pressing machines or the reverse vending machines. This is one such machine being put up at the Reliance Smart Store, which was inaugurated by Madam Priya Dutt, and she is wearing a R-Elan scarf, which is made out of a recycled PET bottle. After this event, there was a lot of demand for this scarf after the madam communicated that this is made from recycled PET bottles. So our retail head had a lot of pressure to deliver these scarves to a lot of people. So along with the land space members, different companies, we have put up nearly 125 machines, such machines. They do not help in collecting the PET, but they help raise a lot of awareness that these are recyclable and they get consumers get rewards as well. So this is Campion School in Mumbai, where this is the first school to put up a plastic bottle crushing machine. Shri Milind Deoraji was there to inaugurate. And this is the UP Excise Minister. He is also impressed with the various products being made, because a lot of liquor is also being packed in PET. He had to make sure that it is a very eco-friendly product. And this is Gorakhpur. You can see the mayor of Gorakhpur flagging off a vehicle loaded with PET bottles for recycling to Reliance Barabanki plant. This was a Swachhata Sarvekshan held in New Delhi, and you can see the Housing and Urban Affairs Secretary taking the Honorable President, and you can see one of our colleagues at the stall, and the President is very delighted to see a coupon for a discount on airfare that is being displayed by the Secretary. If you walk into Raymond store, you will see this site pop of a type of display, educating consumers how the PET bottles get recycled. At Forest Essential stores also, when the consumers walk in, they have this display that, and also the consumers drop bottles at the Forest Essential stores. They get collected by Reliance and are sent for recycling. It's a very small exercise, but it does help in spreading a lot of awareness that PET bottles are valuable and should not be littered and should be given for recycling. So these are some of the ways that PET bottles get reincarnated. When you see cricket, the dress worn by the cricketers, they are made out of recycled PET bottles. The mats, the denim is blended with the Lee jeans, the straps, even the car upholstery. So a lot of things are possible out of recycled PET. There are nearly 45 producers of recycled fiber, 60 producers of strap, 30 producers of sheet in India who use recycled PET. This is at an IKEA store. If you walk in, you will find such shelves which can be assembled. They are made out of recycled PET. Not only this, government has to understand what sort of impact it has on the economy. So this presentation was prepared by PACE to present to the leadership of Government of India in September 2019, when the SUP ban subject became hot. And so, as you know, the chain, even Pratibha tried to explain, this specific to PET, the resin manufacturers, the preform manufacturer, the brand owner, they give the bottle, it goes to retailer, consumer discards, rack pickers pick it up. These get baled and they convert to flakes. The flakes get converted to fiber, sheet. This is one of the predominant chain of how recycling happens in India. Then if you look at the forward chain, in terms of revenue of the resin producers, the equipment manufacturers, converters, brand owners, if you total the value, it comes to nearly 4.1 lakh crore. And when you recycle the product, and it also generates in terms of rack pickers, kabadiwala, baler, flake manufacturers, still the garment, another 3 lakh crore plus. So it's a 7 lakh crore plus economy which is riding on PET in one way or the other. Also, there's a very high potential employment industry. If you look at the total employment starting from the resin manufacturer to garment manufacturer, nearly 70 lakh people are engaged in PET business. In terms of size also, there was a lot of debate, ye size ban hona chahiye, ye rehna chahiye. So we did a study. The smallest is the biggest. About 41% share of volume is with the smallest bottle, and all are getting recycled. So there was a lot of effort to create awareness from some of the doyens in the PET. Dr. Habu is there, and our Mineral Water Managing Director, Behram Mehta ji, they all led this education and awareness wave of being on TV, answering questions, debates, and also a lot of page decided to come with front page advertisements so that the people, the masses, the governments, the departments come to know that PET is recycled and 90% of PET bottles are recycled. And this is supported by study done by NCL and a lot of other data. PACE also led the EPR movement. They decided to go for a producer-led plastic waste recycling organization, and they did a tie-up with Karo Sambhav, which was leading already in e-waste recycling. This was launched in 2019, and we believe by 2025, this would have invested nearly 1,000 crores of investment would have got channelized into recycling different plastics by 2025 through Karo Sambhav and PACE and a lot of brand owners alignment. As a result of all this exercise, you can notice there is a question asked in Rajya Sabha in 2020 February, and one who is asking the question is asking whether there should be a ban on manufacturing of packaged water bottles. And the answer is a large quantum of packaged water bottles are manufactured every year. It is estimated that 90 to 95% of PET or PET bottles reach formal or informal recycling industry already. So this is the awareness that has got created over with this efforts, with these studies, with this exercise. Also, the sustainable development goals, this have to be aligned, and we see that PET is very much helped achieve these SDG goals. Hundreds of rags to riches stories are there. Someone without money came to Mumbai, started collecting bottles, and today has a big business. So there are a lot of 40 lakh waste pickers who are engaged in lifting of PET bottles. So it contributes to ending poverty and zero hunger. The good health, well-being helps deliver hydration, nourishment, and wellness in affordable manner to masses. And of course, you've seen how PET is also contributing to help fight COVID-19 to sanitizer, mask, and social distancing products. The clean water, sanitation, of course, packaged water, beverage, FSSAI, BIS standards are there, and BIS standards are mandatory for water. So there is decent work and economic growth. PET packaging, of course, during COVID, the growth has slowed down, but pre-COVID, the 2 years pre-COVID, it was growing at 20-22%. So there is a responsible production and consumption. PET ecosystem launched the waste management venture for EPR through PACE. Also, PET packaging is one such system which is promoting this plastic bottle crushing machines for capturing the consumers' hearts. In climate action, of course, when you transport your product in PET, it helps cut diesel emissions. They are lightweight and unbreakable. In Reliance also, we have 3 plants converting nearly more than 2.5 billion bottles are diverted to these plants and converted to fiber, which can be converted to fabrics. We also have a bottle-to-bottle plant, which is gaining a lot of importance now because globally the circular economy, the bottle-to-bottle thing is also catching up. And next year, we are coming up with one more plant, which will raise our bottle recycling from 2.5 billion to 5 billion. Of course, recently on 12th of August, some key changes have happened in the plastic waste management rules, Amendment 2021. I am just touching upon broadly. The single-use plastic commodity definition has been inserted, and the sticks for balloons, earbuds, candy, and also plates, cups, glasses, trays, straw. Up to 1st July 2022, they are allowing, and thereafter they are telling these needs to be discontinued. Of course, If it is in a compostable form, the 4 2, the B can be continued, is what they say. Also, this is another flag being raised by a lot of people, brand owners, that marking or labeling, they have introduced the term plastic packaging, wherein the name, registration number, and the thickness is to be mentioned. So industry is reading about it and consulting about it, and clarity would come in the coming few days. The carry bag thicknesses have been enhanced to 75 micron and then to 120 micron. And also for non-woven 60 GSM is what is mentioned, or 240 microns in thickness. And also they have added one more clause: any notification prohibiting these various things issued after this notification shall come into force after expiry of 10 years. This is to build business confidence, maybe, that the industry should not expect further bans and just focus on this. I think this is how this should be the objective of this. And to end, thank you very much. We all need to reduce misinformation, reuse evidence, recycle much more. And you can see pictures that Warsaw Beach. So a lot of cleanup has happened, and now from Warsaw it has become Warsaw. Thank you very much. I will stop sharing my presentation. Thank you all for the kind attention. Over to you, Implex Council.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful presentation. Now we take the questions by the participants asked. I first go with Ms. Bharti. Ma'am, we have a question from Ms. Sangeeta Iyer. What are the specific efforts being made to reach out to and integrate smaller plastic processors to facilitate their waste management?
So I'm going to take both of Sangeeta's questions together because the
Yes.
second part of the question is how many processors also have you reached out to presently?
Yes.
I think what I'd like to point out here is that we primarily focus on post-consumer waste versus industrial waste. We reach out directly to a lot of waste pickers. We reach out to a lot of ULBs, MRFs, etc. Even a few NGOs, in fact, that we're working with to source waste directly from them. Versus obviously working with just local processors. The other kind of local processors that we do work with are people that are recycling waste other than the kind of waste that we handle. So since we obviously primarily focus on flexible plastic waste and a little bit on rigid plastic waste, the kind of partnerships that we have with processors are people that are handling, say, glass or metal or paper. And again, we like to focus on a very sort of local first kind of aspect in order to make everything very economically sustainable for everyone. So our partnerships are more or less with other processors are focused around the sort of our Gujarat area, because that's where our facilities are located as well.
Thank you. But isn't it also important to focus on industrial waste being generated? And as an industry, that is one area where especially the smaller processors could benefit from strategic partnerships with recyclers rather than having to invest in their own waste management function within the company, which is a concern amongst a lot of especially the smaller players.
So are you talking about sort of us doing the collection and then passing on the product to smaller recyclers, to smaller processors?
No, I'm talking about waste collection from the industrial areas itself, from
Yeah.
the processing units,
Mhm.
and with minimal or with some segregation that already happens through various stages of production at their end, and then taking it away from them. So logistics is managed, and they don't need to establish a separate processing function within their factories or within
So,
their companies.
Sangeeta, I do agree with you. But again, like I said, we like to focus on post-consumer waste. And the reason we're doing that is because that is the kind of waste not a lot of people are currently focusing on because it's difficult to recycle. Post-industrial waste ends up being relatively way more cleaner. It might not
Okay.
require the kind of extensive washing line that we have in place, for example. So in order to make sure that post-consumer waste, which is actually very dirty, is able to be increased in value, we're trying to focus on that. So, yeah.
Great, thanks. Sorry, I may have missed. And do you recycle all kinds of plastic waste, even if it is mixed?
No, we recycle. We segregate all types of plastic waste. Yes, we would, but we do not recycle all types of plastic waste. I think about 80% of our focus is on flexible plastic waste, and about 20% is on rigids.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Then we have a question coming in from Mr. Swaminathan. What is the percentage of multi-layer laminates MLP in the waste handled by you?
So I think on a person-to-person basis, I'd be able to answer that better. So per waste picker, the kind of product that they would bring in to us, I think about 50% of it might be MLP and 50% might be other plastic mixed waste.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Then we have a question from Mr. Subhash Saraswat. Will the water pouches and bottles will be banned from next year?
No, I don't believe they would.
Okay,
At least not as per the PAWM rules. Yeah.
okay, thank you. Then we have a question for Mr. Mehta as well as for yourself, Ms. Pratibha. Will lightweight, especially the lightweight PET bottles used for water and beverages increase use and hence result is greater generation of plastic?
I'm not sure why they're saying they will increase in use. I mean, yes, of course, if you're going to talk purely based on population and the kind of demand, yes, maybe with time they would. But I think PET has fairly good recycling rates in our country. So I'm not so sure. I'm very worried about that part. But I think Bharat Sir can probably answer that better.
Yeah, Mr. Mehta, we'd like to have your views also on this.
So, PET, if you compare the weight of a bottle that was there 10 years ago and today, so there has been a lot of reduction. And that has not stopped the collection of PET. The PET bottles, irrespective of weight and size, get collected, and about 90% recycling is already happening. So that is really not an issue. But of course, the desirable is if the bottle is thicker, of course, that is valued, but it is not a constraint that the wall goes thin, then it affects recycling. The bottles, all bottles, whether thinner or thicker, they are getting connected.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. We have a question coming in from Mr. Varun for Mr. Mehta, I suppose. What is the life of the machine? I guess the recycling machine that being installed, it's referring to the same, as these machines are not working now within 3 months of starting.
Yeah, see, initially a lot of machines, such machines had come which were not working, but actually now because of the COVID and the closure, these machines, a lot of machines are not seeing much of dropping of bottles. But yes, a lot of machines are there in India which are just inaugurated and then shut down. But most of our machines are in working condition, and but of course there is a drop because home deliveries have gone up. People are not getting into the store, so there is a drop in the activity.
Thank you, sir. So we have a question from Mr. Manish Sharma. He would like to have your thoughts on RPET for carrying and packaging in India, packaging food in India.
Yeah, this is a very interesting subject, and uh, see, in EU, North America, and various countries, RPET for food contact has already been there. In India, already 90% of PET recycling is happening, and of course, there is a lot of pressure on brand owners because globally they are using it. They have given global commitments, and they have to replicate in India. And sensing this need is what we had. Reliance had put up a plant much before this, 10 years back, for bottle to bottle recycling, and we are the first to enter this segment. And when the government of India approves, at least we have our product. And I think lot many capacities are coming up and are planned because of anticipation that there is a lot of talk at the government level, and this may get approved, and this may become a reality maybe 1.5 years going forward.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So we have a query coming in from Mr. Varun Kedia for both of you. There is a line in the guess which in the gadget, I suppose, in that, which states the following: plastic sheet or like, which is not an integral part of the multi-layered packaging, and cover made of plastic sheet used for packaging. Can you please explain this? Thank you.
Yeah, see, in the EU, North America, and various countries, RPET
wrapping the commodity shall not be less than 50 microns in thickness, except where the thickness of such plastics sheets impairs the functionality of the product. Please confirm about use of 120 micron and above carry bags is still on, as in Maharashtra use of any kind of plastic is banned a long time back. Can you throw some light on this?
Could I ask this question directly, if that's okay?
Sure, sir. Please, over to you.
Mehta Saab, I just wanted to know that it says that if increasing the thickness of any product impairs the functionality of that product, then you don't need to increase the thickness.
Correct. There is a clause in that
Yes,
if the
but
integral
sir,
part and it impairs the functionality, then that thickness clause does not apply. That's possible.
correct. Sir, but last time also we tried getting a clarification that there can be many products like BOPP tapes, stretch films, shrink films. Like shrink films would still work, but stretch films will not, BOPP tapes will not. If you really increase the thickness, the entire concept of that product gets deceived. But there is no clarity as to what products can be covered under this clause. Every municipal corporation interprets it differently and makes their own rules.
Yes, that's another problem, that there is a rule from the central level, then there are rules being made different at different states. And what I suggest is this compilation should be made and given to government, or an expert committee can recommend a list of items which can be kept away from that. I think some such sort of a industry action, I think, may be required. I think that should help close that communication gap as to what is covered in the integral part or not covered. I think engaging experts, some expert members, and they communicating with the government, and then you getting a clarification. I think so. These type of exercise should help.
Varun, can I come in? I'm Mr. Vijay Kumar this side.
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah, Varun, I want to clarify on your point. I am Mr. Vijay Kumar. I am the president of the Karnataka State Polymer Association. Okay, I am on both the committees of SUP and EPR.
Okay.
See, the integral packaging has been clarified almost about 4 years back. Integral packaging is the one which comes with a product which is pre-sealed. Those products are not covered under this PWM rule. It has been not changed. It is again 50 microns and above. Okay. Now, for industrial packaging, like what you're talking, polish sheets and all other things, it will fall under the ambit of that 70 microns or 120 microns. If it is not a part of a industrial product which impeaches the product. See, for that you have to get a proper certification from the end user. See, you cannot decide because technical committee has rejected the proposal, because shrink films or stretch films are used to thinnermost microns, which goes as a coverage, means covering a industrial product. So they are saying it has to be replaced with a polish sheet which can come for a recycling. Otherwise, there will be no end for these type of products coming into black spots and into no garbage where the recycling cannot happen. They have clarified in this PWM 2021 amendment rules. You go para-wise. First, you go through the definitions, then go by the para-wise. A lot of clarity has been given, and it has gone through this process for last 3 years.
So Vijayji, any industrial product, it is just not used for covering products. Like if we talk about stretch films, it is primarily used for transit of goods in many places. So currently US is using 6 microns and 8 microns, which we export from here to there. But if
you
you
see,
make a product which is 70 microns, it cannot be used at all.
Varunji, this all PWM rule amendment is applicable only for domestic. Nothing is applicable for any exports. If the country which is importing the material, if they got any rules notification of banning any item which you are covering the product, it is up to that country to accept it. But as far as we are concerned, means the Indian, this thing, it is only applicable for the domestic usages happening in India. Now export, it is totally exempted. You can send it in any micron, but the accepting country should not have a rule where they got a ban on that particular packaging product.
So even if we are supplying it domestically for industrial use, for stretch films, probably we will still have to stick to 70 and 120 microns.
Yes, 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 yes. Because once it is thrown, once it is removed from the product, once it is delivered, who is going to get it back in the system? Who is going to take the responsibility of that?
Right, sir. Thank you so
Mhm.
much, sir. I would connect Mr. Varun with Mr. Vijay Kumar so he can have more clarity on this. We have a couple of more questions pending, so we take that and then we conclude this session. We have a question coming in from Mr. Abhishek Jain. How can we know which products are included or excluded in waste management?
So I think I'll take that very quickly. I think every product is included in waste management. We as sort of waste generators just have to try and ensure that we are able to categorize waste into three main categories, which is wet, dry, and hazardous. That's it. I think if we're able to segregate into these three categories, the rest pretty much can and will be taken care of more properly, I'll say, by the rest of the people in the chain.
Okay, and how to recycle multi-layer product easily or how to segregate it easily?
How to recycle multi-layered packaging, I think that is a question nobody really will be able to answer very nicely, because I think as far as current recycling facilities go, it can only get downcycled. It doesn't get upcycled. So, and also it is not very economically feasible. If it was, a lot of people would have been doing it, but it's not at the moment. So that's my answer for MLP.
Okay.
Um,
And then we have a question coming in from Mr. Vijay Kedia. Is EPR is for brand owners or for manufacturers of packaging material also?
I think the rules state that it is for both, but obviously at the moment that is something that is focused more on by brand owners. Um, but I think that clarity is not probably there in the rules as well, because there is some sort of a duplication that brings about, because that same waste has changed various, or the same plastic has changed various hands. But both the names at the moment are mentioned on the PWM rules.
Okay.
I think it will be good to assume that one who is putting the product in the market and the consumer is taking it.
Right. The brand
Take
owner,
it, whether
absolutely.
it is a brand owner or irrespective of a brand.
Yeah.
Great. Great, sir. So we take last two questions. One coming in from Mr. Gurmeet.
I think I'll quickly take that question from Akhil as well.
Yeah,
Is there
please.
much difference in recycling waste of milk packets, bread packets, and drinking water pouches? No, there isn't. But one of the key differences that milk packets has is because of the kind of waste that it has inside it of milk, which ends up getting really spoiled in when it goes into waste. There is a very sort of detailed washing process that it has to go through in the recycling facility. The other aspect is that we have ourselves tried to de-ink a lot of milk pouches, and a few of them that are made during the design aspect. Again, this is something that has to be really focused on by people that are manufacturing. That when you're printing on the packet, again, it should be surface printing and not reverse printing, which makes, which then when it goes into recycling through de-inking gives it a higher value and gets recycled better.
Okay, thank you so much. Sir, we have a question for you coming in from Mr. Varun. Local municipalities do not certify or endorse waste collected by us. Unless we have a biomining agreements, then how to get EPR credits?
Yes, I think this is a big issue being faced by everyone, that the urban local body endorsement of your waste collection. I think this is raised by various associations at with the CPCB as well as MOEF, that to do away with such a rule. So we hope that this will get modified in the EPR framework, which is expected. The PWM rules have come. The EPR framework needs to come, and a lot of communication has gone, because this is, of course, the ULB says that when I'm not knowing, have not seen it. How do I endorse it? So it's a big challenge how to get their endorsement. Of course, before even it goes to the municipality, it's getting collected. Like the PET bottles do not reach there; they get collected before and it's sent to the recycling system. So there's a big challenge. Of course, it's right. It's not resolved. It's at the moment you need that as per CPCB, but going forward, a lot of communication has gone and a verbal assurance that same should get modified in future. We hope so that it gets modified and simplified.
Sure, sir. And we take the last
Dr.
question.
Habbu here, can I ask a question?
Sorry?
Yes,
This
sir.
is
Yes,
Dr.
sir.
Habbu.
Yeah, please.
So first, both lectures were very good both in their own ways. My question to Ms. Pratibha is that since you say that you deal directly with waste pickers, just now the preceding conversation was about who owns the waste, and that probably can be a contentious problem because as per law, ULBs are the owner of waste. So if you employ or deploy in some ways the waste pickers, then aren't you kind of stealing the property? How do you solve this problem?
Ma'am,
You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry. What I can say over here is that we have partnered with our local ULB as well, who we're directly also taking product from. And again, like I touched on I think I touched a little bit on the seminar that we also organize for waste pickers. That is done directly in conjunction with the ULB, with that sort of local Nagar Nigam. It's something that we organize along with them. And unless, again, answering your question, unless we make sure that we've partnered closely with them, that is something that might not have been possible. But because we make sure that we are keeping them in a part of our decisions, we are able to work directly with waste pickers.
Okay, thank you so much.
Oh,
Ma'am, we
thank
take
you.
the last
Thank you.
question for the evening from Nikhil, Nidhi Sehgal. Is there any clarity available on whether from next year that packaging would move from PS to PP and what all packaging items products would be permitted in that?
Sorry, is that for me? Is there any clarity available on whether from next year packaging would move from PS to PP? I don't see anything in the PWM rules that directly states that. I mean, I think the kind of things that I see directly from the PWM rules is probably that it's again given a level playing field for the next 10 years, like Bharat sir mentioned as well, for compostable as well as other products. It's given a very clear list of the kind of items that have been banned. Like he also mentioned, there were, the earbuds, the plastic used in earbuds, cigarette packing, plastic used in flags, plastic used in certain sweet boxes. And I think there's some clarity on the kind of things that are banned. But I don't see any mention of this.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it is just mentioned that some items of polystyrene would be discontinued.
Yes,
Likewise also for other plastics also like
Yeah.
the earbuds and
yeah.
so I think
So I
this will evolve going forward in the future. At the moment, from the reading, it's not that clear that
Yeah.
this will move
I
from
think
PS
the
to PP.
polystyrene products that they've again said is the toys that have been made, the
Decoration
decorations
thing also.
that have been made. Yeah.
Maybe I think going forward the industry will evolve from which product to which the moment happens, but at the moment it doesn't seem so.
Right, sir. Right, ma'am. Thank you so much for this wonderful session and great insights coming in from your end on the new rules in the market and how industry is looking forward for the implementation of the same. And
I
we
have a
would
small
like-
question.
Yes, please.
I have a small question. Does it
Yes.
include all household items like chair, comb, any item for waste management, or it's only
At the
for
moment,
water bottles?
No, in fact, there aren't any water bottles as well. I think what it says is the cups and the plates, etc., which are single use. I think what the key aspect over here is single use. The chairs and other plates, etc., that you have in the house are not single use. So it wouldn't apply to that.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
May I
Thank you
add
so
one-
much, sir. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Just
And if the participants have any question, they can leave us. Oh, sorry. Yeah, ED sir
Yeah.
with us.
Kunal, may I request all the members here who are present can send their concerns to the place council. We'll try to compile them and take it up with the ministry for redressal, or we can get some clarity on certain things which members are not unable to understand, certain plastic management rules. We'll try to see that to get some clarity on this. Thank you so much. Kunal, over to you.
Right, sir. Thank you so much.